News leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Billings' largest irrigation canal is nearly dry. The Billings Bench Water Association canal was turned off last weekend so that crews can repair damage to a vinyl liner that was believed to have been caused by vandals. But that's not the only problem. Now, the canal has been dry since Saturday for repairs, but now cracks in the earth have formed on city parklands south of the canal. Q2's Mitch Legge joins us with more.
On Tuesday, Billings Bench Water Association crews were hard at work doing maintenance on the Big Billings Canal, laying new liner on one section and repairing several holes in other sections of the liner. The waterway is usually scheduled to flow from April 14th to October 15th and serves about 1,200 ratepayers that depend on it for irrigation of 17,000 acres of farmland. The canal was turned off by the Billings Bench Water Association on Saturday to make necessary repairs to holes found in the canal's liner around the area of North 14th and North 15th Street. Crews also laid new liner into the canal on Tuesday near the mouth of a tunnel cut through the Billings rim rocks. The city of Billings has also hired a geotechnical firm and stabilization contractor to investigate earth movement that's been found on the hill south of the canal. Yellowstone County Disaster and Emergency Services Director Casey Williams said some of the cracks in the earth would reach hip height if someone were to fall in. The city's stabilization crews will start their efforts this week, with that work able to be done while water is in the canal, according to a news release from the city. The Billings Bench Water Association hopes to have the canal operating as soon as possible. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thank you, Mitch. Crews hope to have the water back on sometime this week. That area caused concern for some homeowners below the canal who experienced leaking foundations back in 2019. Well, today the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against a Wyoming man who was arrested on the Crow Reservation and argued that Native American law enforcement didn't have the authority to stop or search him since he did not have tribal status. That decision was unanimous, with the Supreme Court ruling that on a public road that passes through a Native American reservation, the tribal officer does have the authority to stop a non-native motorist. The ruling did say that the officer must have reasonable suspicion that the driver may or has violated federal or state law. The case centered around Joshua Cooley, who was detained by a Crow tribal highway safety agent in 2016. The detainment resulted in Cooley's indictment on meth distribution charges. Today's ruling reverses an appellate ruling that found the tribal officer had exceeded his authority and signals a change by the Supreme Court, which previously held that tribal police have little authority over non-native people. President Biden traveled to Oklahoma today for an event honoring the victims of the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. CBS's Danya Backus has more.
In Oklahoma, President Biden confronted what he described as a hidden part of American history, the Tulsa race massacre.
We do ourselves no favors by pretending none of this ever happened.
100 years ago, a white mob attacked the African-American community of Greenwood, killing as many as 300 people and destroying more than 1,200 homes and businesses.
Some injustices are so heinous, so horrific, so grievous, they can't be buried, no matter how hard people try.
Biden became the first sitting president to visit the area to address its tragic past.
We memorialize what happened here in Tulsa, so it can't be erased.
No criminal charges were filed after the massacre, which devastated this once affluent neighborhood known as Black Wall Street. On Tuesday, President Biden met privately with the 3 known survivors.
People running and screaming, and you could hear guns shooting and hear airplanes flying over.
Descendants of massacre survivors have called for reparations for their losses, but the president did not mention the issue in his speech. Danya Backus, CBS News, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
President Biden stressed the need to protect voting rights of minority communities. He said Vice President Kamala Harris will lead his administration's efforts on that front. Another lawsuit has been filed challenging a law passed by Republicans at the 2021 Montana legislature. This one concerns a law that restricts voter registration drives on college campuses and that says any Montana judge cannot sit on a case involving any lawyer that gave at least $90 to the campaign of the judge within the previous 6 years. Now, a group of lawyers and attorneys, a county prosecutor, and a nonprofit political group filed the suit today in State District Court in Helena. The suit says the language is unconstitutional because it was crammed into a bill on a non-related subject on the next to the last day of the session. Republicans then passed the revised bill on a nearly party line vote in the House and Senate. The suit says the language violates Montana's constitutional requirement that bills include only a single subject under a title referring to that subject. The bill from State Senator Greg Hertz of Polson had an original title dealing with joint campaign fundraising committees. So far, more than a half dozen lawsuits have been filed by multiple groups and parties challenging portions of at least 10 laws passed by the Republican-led legislature and signed into law by Republican Governor Greg Gianforte. Well, a disturbing story out of Helena as the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office seized dozens of horses as part of an animal neglect investigation. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian was at the fairgrounds as the animals were brought there and has more.
The Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office has seized 57 horses as part of an investigation into a possible animal neglect case. Sheriff Leo Dutton says the animal's condition ranges from moderate neglect to severe neglect. And on Tuesday, all 57 of them were brought here to the Lewis and Clark County Fairgrounds in Helena.
The veterinarians, the Department of Livestock all need to go through these animals, inspect them, see what kind of condition they are in.
Dutton said the horses were taken from a ranch in the North Helena Valley after an investigation that began several weeks ago. Authorities served a search warrant and began moving the horses on Tuesday.
If you have horses, if you have cows, and you neglect them, then I have no choice but to step in as the county animal health officer.
Dutton said this is one of the biggest animal neglect investigations in his more than 30 years with the Sheriff's Office. He said they got help in moving the horses from the Forest Service, livestock, animal control, and volunteers from local ranches. So far, no arrests have been made and no charges have been filed. Dutton said the investigation is ongoing. He said his office will have to hold and care for the horses while any court case goes on. He said they have already purchased some hay, but veterinarians estimate they will need about 1 ton per day to take care of these animals. Dutton asked that anyone interested in helping provide hay contact the Sheriff's Office at 406-447-8204. Dutton said the Department of Livestock and the veterinarians will have to complete their reports before any official charges are filed. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Well, in Kalispell, more than 100 Logan Health Union nurses are on strike as they hope to push hospital administration to listen to their concerns. The nurses say they're striking this week due to unfair labor practices and a demand for higher pay. According to a union spokesperson, those unfair labor practices include discrimination against the union nurses and denial of new assignments in retaliation for being part of the union. Logan Health President Craig Lambrecht said in a written statement that while he appreciates the frustrations of the union, recent behaviors do not lend to reaching any successful conclusions. Logan Health Communications Specialist Chris Leopold stated that more than 150 nurses have offered to work during the strike. Well, it's going to be pretty tough to find a place to cool off the next few days as we look at the possibility of some record high temperatures in the forecast. Here's one place where it might be feeling pretty good though. Lisa and Doug Garner sent us this video. They took a trip up to the top of the Beartooth Pass today, which just opened last week. As you can see, the snow's still pretty high up there on top of the mountains. It's a lot cooler up there, I'd imagine, than it is down here right now. But what was the story in May as we look back?
Well, we've got nothing quite like what you're seeing up there, but we did pick up some precipitation early in the month. We picked up about a ½ inch in the first couple of days, and you can see that green trend shows the actual amount of precipitation that we got, and the brown line shows what we'd see for a typical month. And you'll notice right about the time we got to mid-month, all of a sudden we almost flatlined as far as precipitation goes, and we ended up 1.15 inches short of what we would normally see for this time of the year. As far as temperatures go, it's kind of easy to forget that it was only about 10 days ago that we were setting a record cold reading, and we ended up just a little bit below average, 1.7 degrees cooler than average. But that's all behind us. We'll take a look at those forecast details coming up.
Well, today marks the start of what some in the Women, Infants, and Children program are calling the Summer of Fruits and Veggies. Q2 Brandon Warren tells us why.
The Women, Infants, and Children Assistance Program is receiving an increase to its monthly benefits. Children normally qualify for $9 to receive fruits and veggies. Women normally qualify for $11. With this increase, each eligible participant is receiving $35 per month to buy fruits and veggies from the grocery store.
WIC provides support to pregnant and postpartum moms and children up to the age of 5 that meet a certain income criteria. The benefit increase is only for fruits and vegetables, but it will still be of help.
Really is going to increase people's fruit and veggie consumption throughout the summertime. Of course, this will improve their dietary quality, perhaps even do things like reduce childhood obesity. So hopefully we'll see all of these fantastic benefits from this increase.
2,900 people across Yellowstone, Carbon, Stillwater, and Muscle County benefits from WIC. A St. V's social worker that works closely with WIC recounts one of those families.
We did have a family that had a very specific formula need for their baby, and I was able to work with the WIC program, and they were able to provide that needed formula.
The benefit increase is provided by the American Rescue Plan Act, which each state had to opt in for. For Montanans, the money almost didn't come at all.
We learned just last month that the paperwork for applying for the enhanced benefits had not been completed, and it needed to get in or the extra money wouldn't be available.
They called an emergency meeting to file the paperwork, and we were one of the last states to turn it in. In Billings, Brandon Warren, MTN News.
Thank you, Brandon. And if you're wondering if you qualify for WIC benefits, you can visit our website, ktvq.com, to find out more information. Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, from the book bike to reading rocks, the Billings Library moving closer to normal. We'll have details on phase 3 of their reopening plan. And a little later in sports, we're off to the races as one local track coach looks to prove that he belongs in one of the world's biggest marathons. That story